What is up, guys? It is Chris from Riley Games coming at you with another podcast, another episode of the Real Riley podcast. So, guys, today's topic is all about being a better person. So, where do we go with this? Now, honestly, I didn't really want to do this as a topic. I mean, I kind of did, but like, wasn't sure if I wanted to do it because overall, what experience do I have, right? I'm 18 years old. I consider myself to be a pretty good guy, but obviously, like anyone, we all make a lot of mistakes and whatnot. So, what do we do with that? So, the big thing that I've been thinking about, especially recently, I'd say in the past 48 hours, let's say, maybe 24, is just self growth, you know, and the mistakes that we make. So, let's be fair. We all make our fair number of mistakes, now don't we? Now, a lot of those things can be pretty small. And by the way, if there is anyone in chat, because I just saw someone popped up, I'm gonna be there in chat in like a minute or so. I'm just setting up stream real quick. But yeah, no. Overall, just trying to be a better person, self growth. So we all make a lot of mistakes in life, I would say. And sometimes they're small things. You know, you're driving down the road and you take a left when you're supposed to take a right. So what does that do? It delays you by like 2 minutes from getting to your destination. It's nothing that has huge repercussions. It's just a small detour, let's say. But then there's other things that you look at that you've done and you're like, wow, I really fucked up there. I really screwed up like bad. Like that's terrible. So what do you do with that? Well, whoa, my own podcast is playing it here for me. Okay, man. You should get a webcam for live streaming. I use a Canon and use a green screen too. It's pretty cool. I don't do live because I can't think of things to say on the spot. Lol. Well, play C, dude. I don't think I've ever seen you here, but thanks for stopping by, man. If you're still here, that's awesome. And Savage Gaming, thanks for also dropping in, saying hi. But anyways, self growth, and honestly, here's the big thing with how life kind of goes down, and this is why it's so messy. Honestly, sometimes the older you get, you realize you don't really know what you're doing, and that's kind of the position I'm in right now. But I don't think I'm alone. I think most people from the age of, let's say, 17 or 16 to 30, and even after that, but I'd say 16 to 30 are in a position where they're always trying to set things up, and they're making mistakes along the way, and you're always just trying to make sure that you're not completely screwing up. And it's extremely easy to completely screw up. Now, recently, when it comes to me, here's the thing. I had some pretty big life changes. I'd say in the past 2 years, maybe year and a half, and that was just my parents got divorced. They weren't together anymore. Now, it wasn't too big for me because I was older. You know, I was 17 maybe. I guess I was 17 and or 16. No, I was 17. I was 17. Now, this isn't something that I go through alone, right? I mean, how many kids or young adults have parents that end up getting a divorce? You know, that's pretty. It's pretty regular at this point. I think most people, it's just something that's a part of our society, and we just know, okay, these things happen. People don't get along. They don't always stay together. Um, but it definitely changed me. Now, this isn't so much about my own personal mistakes, but this things that have changed me uh, when it comes to growing, which kind of I think led to a better person. So on one hand, I didn't really want to stick around all that much. You know, you kind of end up having to make those decisions where like if you end up staying at home or something, say when you're older, you have to pick sides in a way. You don't have to. That's totally not true actually. But you just end up being in a position where you got to go either do week to week or whatever. I didn't want to do that, so I just kind of I took off, did my own thing, and I think it forced me to try and grow up a little quicker. And I knew that it wasn't something that just happened. I'm like, wow, I've totally grown from this. It's like no, I consciously knew that I want to grow up a little faster at that point. And it's just small things, let's say. Like, you know, you would try, I don't know how I would say it, but I would try to make myself a not just a better person, but a better man. You know, I was definitely a kid, a teenager, and I still am technically a teenager, 18, but also legally an adult in many cases, but still a teenager, right? But I want to, like, you kind of get to that point where it's like, well, I want to be regarded not as a teenager. I want people to take me seriously, and I want to be an adult. You know, I think it's time. I think it's time I want to be an adult. Um, and like I noticed there's some small changes. The way I would the way I would talk, let's say, I approach things a lot more. Like I never try and approach something and argue with someone because it's pointless. And if they're really stuck on what they're thinking, I don't try and argue it. I just say, oh, well, that's a great opinion. Okay, whatever. This is what I think. That's what you think, and that's it. You know, there's no point in me wasting my time trying to convince someone when they don't want to be convinced. You know. So overall, as I got older, I just didn't want to waste my time. That's overall it. And arguing with people, like people don't like that. People don't like being argued with. People don't like arguing. So why even do it? Maybe avoid it altogether. um, which I guess you could say would go with being a better guy or a person in general. Um, but overall, like say something else, right? Trying to think of an example. Okay, so maybe the way I would dress would also change. Uh, how would I look at it? Tuck in my shirt. Always do. There's nothing. You look 100% respectable when you tuck in your shirt. I'm just saying, you look more respectable. It's it, it's overall. That's just the thing, you know. Comb your hair, to the side. You tuck in your shirt. You don't need to wear a dress shirt or anything, but like you're wearing just a nice long sleeve shirt, nothing crazy written all over it, like hashtag YOLOs and all of the swags. Okay, I just went to like a full out extreme there, but I mean, just wear a respectable, long sleeve shirt. You tuck it in. You wear a belt. You don't wear like I don't wear Vans or DC or anything like that. They're nice shoes, totally nice shoes. Nothing wrong with them. But just like I kind of tried to portray myself in a different way, a different light. I want to be seen as older, more mature. Now, this wasn't me necessarily maturing just through time. This is me trying to speed up, kind of just trying to be more mature and just trying to like, okay, I think I want to be more mature. So I went for it. I went for it pretty good, and um, that's usually when how I say it. It just happened. And I like it too. I think I like being more grown up. You go to your job and all that. It's like blah blah blah. But that's why I like the YouTube channel because I can be more just silly in a sense. You could say not so much on the podcast. The podcast normally I try and stay a little more serious, keep it a different tone, just to show you guys like this is really just real stuff. This isn't me in a stream playing some zombies going, oh my god, guys, the PPSH total hype, which guys, it's complete hype when you got the PPSH. But what I'm trying to say is like the point of the stream, I try and be a little more serious, because like I want to talk about real stuff. That's the thing overall. Um, Being a better person, I've given a lot of thought to it in the past 24 hours because I've realized that I asked people because I realized I get mad about a lot of things. I think and I just wanted to check and I asked one of my friends. I said, "Do you think I'm toxic?" Now that sounds terrible, but they said, "What do you mean?" Well, and then I said, "Well, I get mad at these little things, and political things, personal things with people that I know. I get mad at their decisions pretty easily, and I always kind of regard people. I don't know. I always kind of get mad about the decisions that a lot of people make, and I think a big part of me growing up is that I was trying to, especially recently, I'm trying to get more perspective on myself. So that's why I asked. I said, "Do you think I'm toxic? Do you think that maybe in an effort to be, in an effort, I don't know, maybe while growing up, I don't know what it was, but I've become more toxic and I get mad a lot more easily with people's decisions, And a friend of mine said, no. A lot of time it's within reason, and I would maybe argue that sometimes I just get mad for the sake of it, you know. Just because I think something's stupid, I don't necessarily need to get mad, but I do, and that's something that's been worrying me a lot lately. I get mad at a lot of things, and I feel like it gives off kind of a toxic kind of a feeling, you know, and that's something I've recently been thinking about and been thinking, well, maybe I should change that, you know. Maybe I shouldn't get mad as easily, you know. Maybe I even over exaggerate. Now that there right there, that's part of that personal growth, trying to be a better person. I feel like a big part of it is just getting perspective on yourself, you know, analyzing yourself, looking at your decisions, and thinking, well, does this make sense, you know? It's worked for me so far for the past little while. I've been the way I am. Um, Nothing completely wrong with it, but is there how would I say it? How would I say it? Is it worth it? Should I be acting this way? You know, should I be acting the way I'm acting? And for me, let's say I'm just take a sip of coffee. For me, I've found that maybe no. Sometimes I do over exaggerate. Sometimes I get mad at the wrong things that aren't worth my time. And you'll find that as you get older. I find that a lot of things aren't worth your time. Things that would bother you before, you ignore, because it's not worth your time. Not everything's going to be worth your time. Bring it back to video games. Actually, you can say if you're running after someone in Call of Duty multiplayer, chances are you're going to get shot by someone because you're just so concentrated on chasing this one guy, right? So you're just going to end up running by a guy. He's going to shoot you, right? You can't focus on things that aren't worth your time. You know, like things will run by you, things will go by you. Sometimes it's not worth running after. You know, just let it go. Um, it's not everything will be worth your time, I find. And once again, it just comes down to me. A big part of being a better person is just self-analyzing. It's it's just looking at your decisions, even if you've already made them. If you don't have the time, or if you don't think about it, if you don't think about it while it's happening, and you don't actually analyze your own decisions, you just kind of make them. There's nothing wrong with maybe the next day or later that week looking back at them and saying, was that a good idea? Maybe it wasn't, you know? That's something that's hard to do, is admitting that some of your decisions aren't always the best. It's hard to look back and look at yourself and be critical and say, you know what, that was a terrible decision. Why did I do that? But if you don't do that, you can't grow. You know, you can grow and be a better person. And here's the thing, like, you never really stop growing, I don't think. I think that your whole life you make bad decisions all the time. And the older you get, hopefully, if you've been trying to actually learn from these things, you will slowly become a better and better person, you know? Like if I compare myself to say teenage me at 14 or 15, I did some terrible stuff. Even now I do some terrible stuff, but I think I did even more terrible stuff then because I didn't have the experience and I wasn't analyzing my decisions. You know, I wasn't thinking about them all the time. You know, when you're young, you don't always think about what you do. Whereas when you get older, you're expected to, and for good reason too. But you're expected to look at what you're doing and just say, okay, well, that's not a great idea. I shouldn't do that. And if you're not able to do that while you're making your decisions, that's fine. You know, maybe people get mad at you and say, "Well, Chris, like, come on, like, how could you do that?" And it's like, I don't know, I wasn't thinking, whatever. But overall, if you just get mad about it or try arguing with people, it's like you're avoiding. It's like you're avoiding actually taking the time to think about it. And that's the thing. It's even tougher, I find, to look back on your decisions later on and be critical about them because you can't change them now. And there's nothing worse than looking back on a decision and saying, "Wow, that was a terrible thing to do. I should never do something like that again. I should think of a different way to handle those situations." It's tough to do that because you've already made those decisions, right? And because of that, when you look back on them, you don't want to because you know you can't change them. You can't change what you've done. All you can really do is learn from it. And because of that, most people don't want to look back at the things that they've done, and they don't want to be critical about the things that they have done. It's a lot easier to be critical in the moment, which is something that I think even I'm right now trying to work on. You know, I'm trying to think more critically and be like, okay, well, is this a good idea? in the moment that it's happening. You know, I'm trying to analyze the decision a lot more. And I think that's important. I think it's important to do that overall. But that's the thing. Like, the sooner that you can start criticizing yourself on the spot, the better, because it's easier. It's so much easier to be critical of yourself on the spot because you still have the time to change that decision. If you're making the decision there, and if you can be critical and analyze it and think about it, it's a lot easier to do because then it's like, oh, well, this is a terrible idea. I won't do it. Boom. Then you don't do it. Okay? You just learned from that experience in a way without making the bad decision because you were critical about it. It's hard to be critical about your decisions afterwards because you don't want to look back on it and say it was a bad idea. You know, it's almost like admitting defeat in a way, which not many people are too crazy about. I think it kind of sucks. It sucks looking back on your decisions and remembering things that you've done that are sometimes just downright kind of stupid, cringy. You're like, why did I do that? That was terrible. How can I avoid that? And that's the thing. You want to think about how can you avoid that? How can you change that? And how can you be a better person? So overall, I think the overall theme to being a better person is really self-analyzing. You know, it's so easy to watch a video or go to school and learn from people who have experienced certain things. But it's even tougher. But something that's really tough is to look back on yourself and be critical of yourself and try and learn from those things that you have done. So, anyways, that's overall it, guys. I don't know where else I would go with this. I think the overall message, guys, just to being a better person is self-analyzing. If you can catch your own mistakes on the spot, would be great. But if you have to look back, you know, take the time to look back sometimes. Just take some time, look back on the things that you've done, try and learn from them. It's tougher to do it once it's happened because then you got to be critical of yourself, and you don't want to be because you know you can't change those decisions. That's why it's a lot easier. Do it when you can. When you're making a decision, really think about it, be critical about it so that you can avoid those things, you know, so that you can make the right decisions. And if you didn't, take the time to think about how you could make a better decision. Now, once again, guys, like I said, I'm 18. Okay, not the smartest guy in the world. Don't take everything I say and think to yourself, now should I be listening to Chris? Is everything that Chris is saying making sense? Like, once again, analyze what I'm saying. Just don't follow blindly. It's one of the worst things you can do. When you hear something, really think about it for yourself and think, does it make sense? Okay. So what I told you, does it make sense? Do you think it makes sense? If you don't think so, what would be better than that? I don't know. Just don't follow blindly. You know, don't just listen to me and say, yeah, Chris is right. We'll do exactly what he does. Maybe I don't have the best advice. Like I said, I'm 18. I'm pretty young. And I don't know. I just try and think things through. I'm saying what I think, but maybe what I think isn't the best advice. Anyways, but guys, that'll be it for the podcast today. Once again, short. I try and keep the podcast really short. I try and keep them under 25 minutes, ideally between 20 and 25 minutes. This one I think is going to be just under 20, but that's fine. Overall, guys, thanks for dropping by if you did, and thanks for listening afterwards. I think the podcast is something most people listen to afterwards when they have time. But anyways, if you have any personal experiences or anything like that you just want to talk about, put it in the comment section. I'll be pretty active there probably tonight, and in the next couple of days, I'll probably be looking back on it. But anyways, thanks for watching, and also if you're wondering where the zombies content is, I just streamed like half hour ago. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. And I'm gonna have a little vlog style video later, just something short. Just want to get something across. But that's about it, guys, for what we're doing. That's the news. Okay. So yeah, thanks for dropping by. I hope that what I've been saying is somewhat helpful, and that from my experiences, you guys can learn some stuff, or learn to I don't know, just deal with stuff better. All right, thanks for watching, guys.